You are sitting in a room where the volume is turned all the way up. The commentators are shouting, tension fills the air, and thousands of fans are blaring from the massive screens. You understand exactly what is happening. You know the rules and the stakes. Yet inside your mind, there is absolutely no spark, no pull, just a quiet awareness that you are watching something meant for someone else. Living in a culture where sports function as a universal language leads to a specific social friction. When a colleague asks, "Did you see the game last night?" and you say no, a micro-silence usually follows, a brief, awkward pause that disrupts the rhythm of the conversation. In that fraction of a second, assumptions start forming. People in the room might conclude that you are being antisocial or a contrarian on purpose. They often interpret the lack of interest as emotional detachment from the shared human experience. Society treats enthusiasm for athletic spectacles as a mandatory baseline emotional requirement for belonging. Failing to speak this shared language marks you as an outsider, turning a simple personal preference into a perceived social defect. Over time, these daily social mismatches accumulate. You begin to carry a quiet shame, internalizing the room's judgment. Because humans are highly social learners, your brain searches for the problem, leading you to conclude that your neurological wiring is somehow broken. But slowing down and examining the psychology here reveals a completely different reality. This lack of reaction points to a healthy nervous system designed for an entirely different set of signals. Your attention is fully functional, it simply refuses to light up on command for collective spectacle. To understand why sports hold such a tight grip on human attention, we have to look at evolutionary biology. Modern athletics plug directly into ancient survival wiring. They create a clean, safe version of us versus them, allowing the brain to trigger massive releases of dopamine and testosterone without any actual physical danger. For our ancestors, belonging to a group meant survival, and modern fans, moving as a single unit, recreate that safety. The brain releases reward chemicals when a team wins, treating these symbolic victories identically to literal territorial conquests. This physiological response applies far beyond the stadium. A 2008 study observed measurable testosterone shifts in men whose preferred political candidate won the US presidential election, compared to those whose candidate lost. The context changes, but the biological mechanism remains identical. People who feel nothing during a game still possess this tribal switch. It simply requires a higher threshold for activation. While a sports fan might attach their loyalty to the geographic proximity of a stadium or the colors their parents wore, the non-fan requires shared values, shared effort, or mutual creation. Choosing not to invest in a rotating roster of corporate athletes indicates a specific threshold for connection. This orientation prioritizes stable, reciprocal meaning over inherited loyalty. Another biological driver of sports obsession is mirror neurons, cells that activate whether you perform an action or watch someone else. When an athlete scores, the spectator's brain physically simulates the action. But this simulation requires a psychological bridge signaling, "That could be me." The non-fans' mirror neurons work perfectly. They simply require a different kind of psychological bridge, built toward an entirely different set of chosen heroes. Their neurological simulation might light up while watching a musician executing a complex passage, a craftsman turning raw material into something precise, or a thinker articulating a deep idea with clarity. The biological surge is identical, only the target changes. Fans and non-fans possess the exact same empathetic capacity. They simply choose to borrow their sense of motion and meaning from different sources. True fandom requires massive cognitive resources. The human brain has a limited amount of cognitive real estate, and tracking strategies, statistics, rivalries, and storylines that stretch across decades consumes a significant portion of it. This allocation of bandwidth often starts early. Childhood environments dictate how the nervous system adapts to external stimuli. In some homes, high-volume group excitement signals safety and connection. In others, crowded, loud rooms signal tension, teaching the nervous system to associate safety with quiet focus, solitude, and one-on-one engagement. Because of these early adaptations, many people allocate their cognitive real estate toward understanding complex systems, developing mastery, or refining a physical craft. Their attention consolidates around creation rather than scattering across spectacles. A lack of interest in sports reveals a prior commitment of mental focus. The mind is already busy running long games and building projects in areas where effort compounds over time. Both paths ultimately lead to a psychological state called absorption. This is a healthy, deeply meditative escape where time collapses, worries soften, and attention narrows to something simple and present. Watching a massive sporting event provides outward absorption. It pulls the viewer's attention into an unpredictable external performance, delivering a finished narrative completely outside of their own control. People who ignore the stadium find inward absorption. They step into a workshop, open a code editor, or sit down to write. Their mind becomes fully present in its own work, pulling energy away from external displays and channeling it into problem solving. Outward absorption consumes an unpredictable outcome. Inward absorption allows a person to live inside an unfolding narrative, maintaining direct agency over the final result. These two methods of absorption regulate completely different nervous systems. Neither path holds superiority. They are simply different tools utilized to achieve the exact same relief from self-consciousness. The quietude of a non-fan during a championship game signals a mind turned towards something specific. This silence marks the presence of heavy concentration, often directed toward a long-term project or a complex idea that won't reset at the end of the season. Attention remains the most valuable resource a human being possesses. Exactly where you point that attention shapes the kind of mind you develop and the kind of person you ultimately become. Those who bypass the stadium have simply concentrated their focus elsewhere. Their attention stays fixed on personal arenas that offer growth and mastery long after the final score is recorded.